Vilius Benetis will bring us even closer to cybersecurity. He told me about himself that he does not apply corporate governance language in his daily work, as he's rather down-to-earth person. And that is exactly what we want to have here in our show, real people down to earth with their professional passion. Vilius is a director at NRD Cyber Security in Lithuania and brings more than 20 years of relevant experience in his field. He's also serving as board member at the North European Cybersecurity Cluster called NECC, lectures and is invited as speaker all over the world. Since a few years, I have the pleasure to work with him and highly appreciate his commitment and professionality. And as always, when I talk to my guests, I'm interested of what is not obvious, what is not written in his or her curriculum. I want to learn more about the human who impacts corporate integrity. Let's have a look behind the scenes of Vilius' responsibility and experience when it comes to corporate integrity with cybersecurity. I'm glad to have you here spending the next few minutes with us.
Corporate integrity, fraud, non-compliance, and cybersecurity. Would you like to understand the root causes, detect threats, and take measurements to protect the most precious assets? As a leader, you need to be prepared and stay actionable in the event of an incident. Sonja Stirnimann talks in her podcast, The Human Factor. Corporate integrity matters. To leaders and entrepreneurs who want to have impact, foster corporate integrity, and act as role models. As an international expert for corporate governance and integrity, entrepreneur, and independent board member, she knows the challenges. Let her inspire you.
Welcome back to this new episode of the podcast, The Human Factor, Corporate Integrity Matters. You might be a board member, executive or non-executive, a business professional, a corporate integrity counsel, or on your way there. I'm your mentor and sparring partner when it comes to corporate integrity with impact, founder of Corporate Integrity Concepts and its leadership circle, with the vision to protect and secure assets, reputation, and actionability, yours and the one of your organization. Why? Because corporate integrity matters to all of us. Listen to the perspective Vilius brings with us today. So Vilius, it's so great to have you here as our guest, especially as you know that our conversation will focus first of all on you, your organization, your experience and your team when it comes to corporate integrity in the connection with cybersecurity. And as an expert in cybersecurity for more than 2 decades, our listeners and myself are so curious to learn more from you and your experience. So the first one I would like to know from your side is, you're also a member of boards and acting as a director. What role does corporate integrity play in your current functions?
Sonja, thank you very much for inviting me here. I am a vivid listener of your podcast, and I take it as a study material, and some sections I repeat for myself, which I think it was not clear enough or I forgot. And I think, okay, do I understand this concept? And then I say, okay, there were such a good ideas and I need to repeat it. So I feel as a student in your classes. So thank you very much for inviting me today. So regarding the integrity for me, and as I'm coming from small company and my background, I don't have an MBA or any other business managerial role. I was from technical role. I grew up slowly into the management. So for me, corporate integrity means not much. However, it means a lot if I just take a word integrity. Because with corporate integrity, I don't have many touch points. But I believe because of the size of our organizations where I'm involved, but rather integrity plays an important role every day for decisions, for international understanding and other places.
Okay. So, but when I listen to you right now, I think it means a lot to you, integrity. And the corporate, I think it doesn't matter how big our corporations are. We are always a corporate as soon as we are not alone. Even sometimes even 2 people are a corporation, because we all have these kind of relationships. But thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I also would like to make clear, corporate integrity also to our listeners right now. It's all of us. It's not just the huge ones with thousands of employees. I think we are all part of corporations, and also the corporation we have, for example, together. When we work together, we are already a corporation somehow. So, but thank you very much for sharing. And what you see, because you are also working as a consultant, you are leading, you are a director. So, what do you see? What is landing on your desk when it comes to integrity? Because I think the clients, no, I just don't think, I know that the clients are calling you because of any misconducts they see.
So I work for a cybersecurity focused company, which main objective is in defense or protection area. So my primary objective in my country and internationally for many countries around the world, especially in Africa and Asian parts, is to build instant response capabilities, where they go along with cyber crisis management if incidents escalate. And so from consultancy part, there's a lot of thinking process how to ensure that organizations will be successfully doing what they're supposed to do and playing relevant part. On the management part in daily life, I have different moments to think about on how these integrity points play through. So, for example, we have offices or sub-offices or sub-units in different parts of the world. And once it was such dilemma that seems to be a local client was asking for the money. And in our integrity points, we never pay. We can create another value for the project. If we see that that's in the scope or close to the scope, then we can add some extra content, knowledge, but never cash. So I even said to a local person that, if you place your own money to the client or company money, I'll fire you. It was an awkward situation because what is this? I'm threatening a person. On the other hand, why I did it? To provide a protection for him, saying, customer, I cannot do that because it's going to be no me anymore because of these crazy Europeans or whoever they come from. It felt this double feeling because threatening colleague is nothing pleasant, doesn't sound very integrity based, but the design was in a particular way and still stays in my head, such story.
And how did you solve it? Because sometimes it's really also an understanding and cultural issue, because I think that person wasn't aware that she or he did something wrong.
That person did not do anything wrong. That person was not fired, and it was introduced in our integrity concept on code of ethics, saying exactly what we do and how we do. My challenge is that then going somewhere in our culture, gift giving is something for relationship. When you go to your friends, you always bring chocolate or something for every kid whom you visit. So then we go internationally as well. It's a question, what's the concept of a gift? So I had to think through it, and I settled on the concept of cultural gift.
Yep.
It means that what brings something part of my culture, which is focused not on the value of it, but rather representing of something where it come from.
That's a really nice approach. And sometimes I also do that with the Swiss Army knives, the little ones we have here in Switzerland. And, they are not that expensive. And the value is far below also 30 Swiss francs, depending on the size you choose. But that's something I recognize you can always bring with you. Nobody feels bad by accepting it. But if it would be above 100 Swiss francs, I would have a problem also internationally, especially internationally, because they really know and what they can accept and what not. But the smaller ones are possible.
So here I can interconnect with another story of my learning experience. A few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years, I was working with a client who had as well ongoing projects with Chinese telecommunication manufacturers. And one day I work as a consultant in the office, and I hear client is a little bit confused. The client managers a little bit nervously and shouting, and I was asking what was happening. I think, there's some festivals in China, and all our staff got a mug, and there was real money inside. I said, "Oh, what's that?" It's the worst case of China. Even though I was studying for a few months in China before, in 2005, in Tsinghua University, I got a grip of what Chinese culture, but that probably because of the time it was different. I didn't experience that. What the concept of red envelope, which only later on in social environment, a few years after, I from a mixed family where German and Chinese lady have a few kids jointly living in Europe, I was explained that red envelopes, it's a game, it's Asian cultural concept where for the kids, you put a random number of money in the envelope and they're happy and excited. And it's a cultural. And that would, knowing that fact about different culture, that would ease the situation much more.
Absolutely.
From what I experienced. And the sensitivity to the culture and not rushing to the conclusions was happening, but rather seeking for understanding and brings to for me, the principles of this integrity is that integrity means trust and good faith, which brings to the possibility of communicating and resolving what's happening, what's appropriate. And if you think, okay, I'm with goodwill, I'm trying to achieve something, but if any idea that maybe it's not going to be appropriate, it's rather ask, knowing that there's some trust and communicating it in such way.
And it's always the intention, someone has. If you receive a gift, what is the intention? So can we trust? And if we don't trust, we have to ask and listen. And I think in certain moments, I really miss the ability to people listening to each other, because they are coming from different cultures. They have another concept in mind, and if you cannot talk about that, I think that's a big risk also for building up a culture of integrity. So when I listen to you right now, what is your advice for the next generation of leaders when facing such situations and building up a culture of integrity?
I'm not sure about the next generation. I think in the current generation, like me,
we still have to go for 30 years or more. Huh?
Yes. So it's first of all to understanding very clearly what is no-go zone. Cash giving its no-go zone, and it's very clear. There's no discussion.
Also, not the Lamborghini in Switzerland, huh?
Yes. So the next is to understand the principles of integrity and ethics principles of our own organization and personal integrity principles, and see if there's any mismatch. If there's some mismatch, then interpretation should be clearly understood and then put on the table. And then knowing that what mechanisms will protect you in case you fail. For example, what we have when I joined the team we're working now in 2009, I remember that all the customer gifts were supposed to be given to HR.
Yep.
To receive something, then in order not to have this thinking, what should I do? Do I bring it home? Do I do what? Okay, if it's edible, so probably you eat alone or with somebody, your colleagues. But if there's something else, then the best way is to give. And even now I'm using this technique when I see that, okay, there's something company could benefit. It's even my family maybe benefit, but I think first about the company and then give it to either talking to colleague and say, maybe you need a bag. Maybe you need because I brought one from the conference, which was given there to me, and then thinking through what is the balance, what is correct balance. But it goes quite individual. So these principles and the international principles and the regulations. And another principle is coming from religious places, saying that God is everything seeing God. So if my behavior would bring me later on, put my eyes down and couldn't stand because of guilt or because of saying, okay, yeah, it's not good what I did. So then not to behave like this, because maybe even though it's not public, but if it's not appropriate, not do it. And I learned this especially and observed in Denmark in 2003. At that time, digital cameras start to appear. And I remember when I started studying there in 2001, I heard, and I started working on the side as a student, I heard about these crazy Christmas parties that husbands or wives don't want to let husbands to their company Christmas parties. And I felt while living in Denmark, I felt how society changed because of this exposure, that somebody brings pictures from digital pictures and then it has some issues, integrity issues. And then it successfully changed. And when I left Denmark in 2006, I never heard about any companies having such kind of trouble.
Yeah, and I think it also helps for transparency reason,
Yes.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. And what I would like to focus on right now is one of your core topics. I also listen and read what you are publishing, and I know that you do quite a lot also lectures in the environment of cybersecurity resilience. I think there's hardly any workshop not covering the topic resilience, but when it comes to cybersecurity, I would like to learn a little bit more how you see that and what is your framework and concept for cybersecurity resilience.
So every time I listen to your podcast, there's a cybersecurity in the statement.
Yes.
And then through the episodes about cybersecurity, I understood that for you, cybersecurity starts naturally somewhere where fraud and cybercrime is involved. So usually, methodologically, it's cybercrime, which is different from cybersecurity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Currently, there are 4 dimensions of cyber something in the area. It's cybersecurity, cybercrime, cyber defense, which becomes cyber operations against ransomware, as it used to be military operations against Somali pirates, patrolling boats. So similar things happening now with cyber defense. And finally, cyber diplomacy, which is on the national levels, how to agree on what we do. Maybe for corporations as well, it's relevant, especially big corporates. So my work mostly is in cybersecurity, and cyber resilience is this cyber problems not to affect your objectives, your business, and that stands on 2 legs. One leg is not to have incidents, cybersecurity incidents, because if you don't get sick, then you're kind of okay. Right? It doesn't mean what is your immune system or how you handle your sickness, but if you don't get sick, if there's no incidents, you're good. So you are resilient. And another leg is if I'm getting sick, if I got some illness, a virus or bacteria, what I'm going to do? Do I notice it? How fast I notice it? And do I understand and manage what I'm going to do about it? What is interesting about this picture, but leg number one, about reducing the number of incidents, it's mostly relies on IT discipline, information technology. It's about IT hygiene and your digital systems to be built resilient, which is not cybersecurity specialist topic at all. It's about designing your systems to be resilient, or in overall, for the higher level, it's business continuity could work very well.
It's also somehow the housekeeping you have to do, isn't it? When you talk about hygiene, it's really the housekeeping everybody should do. And what do you see when you're out there at your clients? Do they really do that? Because what I think is this is the most important part. And if they don't do that, all others, all the other things, all the other vulnerabilities we have significantly increase.
I think there's no magic in companies comparing to the families or bigger families. So we can look at bigger family and see which parts are in order. And can we even divide the responsibilities? Who takes care of the kitchen and how often it's supposed to be clean. But it's as well about their maturity and understanding why we do it, how we want to live, and what are costs associated. If I take a thing and I'm expected to put it back, or I just make a tea and leave it there and maybe document later, in the real life.
And leave all the doors open, huh? Of course,
or
always.
Lights open or other things. So it's, and that's why it's IT hygiene, that it's not only for the security purposes, but as well for cost, performance, quality, all combined in the same way. And cybersecurity expertise is required mostly as doctors' expertise. For prophylactics, we don't ask surgeons to assist us. We hope for the clinics specialists to work when incidents happen, and we need to prepare for the access to these doctors. So either have insurance which covers us the best specialists, either have a contract saying that somebody, or maybe there's a clinic specialist who will monitor our regular health and then work on it. So it's about when do we detect cavities in our teeth? When we feel the pain or we do regular checks.
And what do you see out in the market when you look at your clients? Where do they like to spend more money? Before, for the hygiene, or afterwards? The willingness to invest.
I think everything starts from the business idea, or however start what is business. Business is to taking a risk and converting it into profit. We just choose which risk to take, and this is the essence of a business. And then we have a Lithuanian proverb saying, if you don't risk, you don't drink champagne. And if you invest in security in such a way that there's no profit, there's not going to be no champagne to drink. So then the question, under which conditions we should invest in handling that risk. And what I answer then in that case, when people thinking about, okay, so what's this point of risk and champagne? And I say, maybe there's going to be nobody to drink the champagne. If you don't handle properly the risks, and you think that you chose the risk and you work for it, but it suddenly goes from a different angle, and then it kills your business completely. And so cybersecurity protection from the business sense, the most important thing is that the boards and the top management, they properly qualify and quantify the cybersecurity risk. And
Absolutely.
then everything will work.
Absolutely. But
the
I see,
problem is that, yeah.
Sorry, no, go on. Sorry, it's your.
I just want to say what's the difference, why in other areas it's easier and in cybersecurity is a little bit different. I see two reasons. One is cybersecurity is not visible with the eyes. If we would see how bad some things happen, we will not go in cyberspace because there's always some bad things like happening.
And people can hardly believe how bad it could turn out.
Yes. On the other hand, all around are a lot of microbes, and I'm not afraid to touch a table, and these microbes will not kill me. So what's the difference? The difference is resilience. So do we quantify? How do we know? But if we know that every day there are different microbes, and some of them flying from Mars, and we have no clue how they're going to, and then we have most often, because cybersecurity as a word is human-created threat actors. There's no laws of physics which attack us on cybersecurity. It's always human. So we know that there's some bad people targeting us because of your well-described fraud triangle, that there's a motive to get cheaper money and remotely with less risk, and then justifying that cybercrime is not really, I didn't damage anyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, because it all goes back to the human factor, isn't it? It's all about us, and there are no bad computers or algorithm or whatever, And what I see, it's most often the topic cyber resilience or cybersecurity or cybercrime. It's all put back to the IT department, which is not correct at all, in my opinion.
Yesterday, I was being filmed on for accountants to explain, and I was putting the picture in the room. I say, imagine that you come to your workplace and there's open electrical wires, and you're told, don't touch here, don't touch there, but you still have to do the work. And we don't know what's going to happen, what's going to hit us today. So please don't click on something, because if you see something nice wrapped package, don't even touch. But you are responsible to ensure that all packages should be looked at. And you say, yeah, and other instructions, and say, go and work here. It all comes to the safe environment. So if I am a HR person or accountant, my objective is to process invoices and ensure that particular process. So am I supposed to work and be okay when the attacks are happening constantly, threats are happening? Because it's about as well our mental health, what is expectation from our environments. And it's so far only physical environments are regulated for the safety reasons. I would expect that in 2, 3, 4 years, there's going to be additional compliance requirements that normal humans should be
protected also,
protected from attacks. Because if we're thinking about accountant again, if there's a physical space where a robber comes in and with a gun asks for money, the instructions are to give all the money and be alive. In digital world, because there's no threat to the human body, but I'm going to die because there's a gun, etc. Then if money is stolen because the business email compromise or other attacks, suddenly accountant is the guilty person, but threat model is very similar. So
absolutely, yeah. And I also like the picture. That's also what we say. In our environment, we have to protect our most precious assets, and also in a digital environment. It's not only the physical one, but also the digital one, because everything is changing, and the attacks are more dangerous right now when it comes to the cyberspace than it ever was before.
And there's a particular reason why we're in such a bad situation. One of the reasons is that we, on the premise of digitalization, it's going to be good for us, faster, easier, etc. We take just a technology, a piece of technology which is offered, but those who manufacture technology, they are not interested in our business continuity processes. If a technology will fail or somebody will break it or somebody will steal it, the objective is to give that technology, go to the next client. So then those who are thinking about, I'm going to get the technology, accounting software and now digital invoices, etc., no paper anymore, then whose objective in the ecosystem to think, okay, what about our business resilience, business continuity?
I think it also depends how people are measured, What is the goals? What are the goals? What are the responsibilities? And we also have to think about that framework, who is going to be responsible for what? And also these parts are going to be included and need to be included. And at the end, it's also how to protect our assets and everybody who has responsibility of what kind of environment they are in.
Yes, and my objective in the world, what I'm focusing, and I believe that's my contribution with my team, is in different parts of the world, in different countries, help establish systems as a national incident response teams or sectorial incident response teams in energy, in financial sector, whose objective is not to resolve every incident, but rather focus on ecosystem building, that in that country there should be knowledge, how to handle, there should be practices, there should be ideas, discussions in order to build that resilience in the country through different mechanisms.
I like your approach of resilience, because at the end, it's all about resilience, Also, when you have any fraud case or any incidents, no matter where it comes from, you have to make sure that the organization is resilient. First of all, what I say, it's a resistancy, to be resistant against it. And if it happens, you have to be resilient, The sooner you're back in the business, the better, because otherwise it costs you a lot of money.
Yes, well, now coming back to your question, the truth is, if we look out there through a window and observe how organizations behave, so organizations behave either we need to comply to something, or we don't want to repeat what just happened again, that's why we're going to invest. And that's natural. So many banks invest in cybersecurity just because they had some issues. And what I see currently, every week there are some ransomware cases here in my country as well, and business email compromise. A lot of things are not reported at all. But what I'm happily observing, but in some cases when ransomware hit only a small part of the business, it shakes the business to think, okay, so great that it was not customer data, so great that it didn't touch on that or that, let's do something about it. So for me, it reminds me effect of vaccine for our bodies.
Exactly, and if they learn from that lesson, it's great. Some of them don't learn, also not after several attacks, but others really learn and install all the necessary processes to protect.
Yes, and that's a path. We cannot just jump into there. We need to work.
And I think we also have to educate people on that, because it's somehow new. I know for us, it's already many years ago when it started, but it's a learning process also for the organization and the teams. And I think we are much better than we were, I think, 18 or 24 months ago. Also, the crisis helped.
So here, it's very clear that unless board members know the questions to ask, it will not work. Because from bottom up, it's an extra cost, extra other things. So somebody has to ask CIO or CTO or head of IT, how we're doing it. In case it happens, how we're going to survive it.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's where discussion starts. And it's important, again, that there's integrity in organization where such discussions can be, because there's no answer at that moment, that nobody would feel defensive. Oh, yes, we will handle it. I don't know how. So we'd say, okay, actually, we didn't invest in that. Let's discuss, let's see, let's investigate, let's put resources and work forward. So at least in my management for organization I work, I try to ensure that there's always space for the sincere conversation on whatever topic, because otherwise we'll sail to some strange place.
Absolutely. And we have to ask these kind of questions, and we also have to ask again and again, and we have to take the team with us, also on board level, to make it a strategic pillar and not just a governance issue or a compliance issue, because it isn't. It's really how we can protect our business, make sure that we're also alive and successfully alive over the next decades as an organization. So, Vilius, thank you very much for your contribution. It was a pleasure, and I promise I'm going to invite you again for our special editions, also what we have in our leadership circle, because I think you should give our other board members now also some kind of workshop in asking the right questions. So if you are willing, the invitation will come over soon. And is there anything else you would like to add here?
I would like to wish all the listeners to take many things from your podcast and rethink how it integrates as well. Think through, and I hope that one day there's going to be listeners forum somewhere where I say, okay, but how others felt about this part, because it affected me in such way. So that's my wish for 2022 or 2023 or 2024 for your podcast.
So thank you very much. And thank you. I wish you all the best for the future. Also when it comes to corporate integrity, because also your firm is a corporate, and also your team are corporates. And I'm looking forward to staying in contact and see what also you publish to our wider world following our global goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sonja.
This was the episode 47 of the Human Factor Corporate Integrity Matters, following the motto Corporate Integrity secures and empowers individuals and organizations. Thank you for listening. My name is Sonja Stirnimann and I'm your host. Stay curious, actionable and a role model. Take care and goodbye. Would you like to learn more, meet peers and getting qualified? So visit the website Corporate Integrity Concepts or Corporate Integrity Academy. Or do you think this podcast could be interesting for someone you know? Sharing is caring, and we are always happy to welcome your peers to our community. And if you like this episode, subscribe and don't miss any of the future ones. The show notes are, of course, enriched with relevant information, and your connection via any of the social media channels is highly appreciated and will be answered. Promised. And please do not forget, topics of your interest or interview partners are highly welcome. Just send me a note on any of the channels you know.